Okay.
Huh. Okay. So, my name is Toby. I'm a professional mushroom hunter. And I moved to the Northwest to harvest mushrooms. I didn't know I was going to try to do it to make my living, but early in my experiences in Oregon, I had a tremendous opportunity to explore the whole phenomenon of fire morels, because there was a large fire very near to Eugene, Oregon, outside of Sisters, called the B&B Fire Complex. It was really large. I think I've overestimated the amount of acreage in the past, but 350, 400,000 acres, very large fire, all over the slopes of Mount Jefferson. And anyway, it was a really productive fire. There were a lot of morels in it, and it gave me an opportunity to walk around in this burnt landscape with some live trees left and a bunch of sticks around and stuff, and see all the commercial pickers everywhere. And it was a really weird experience. I spent a lot of time picking morels out there, and I made a little bit of money, but it wasn't much. But this one particular day, late in the season, things were hot and dry, and this one night it got a little chilly. It was a comfortable night in the tent, and I got up, and when I got out of the tent, there were deer in my little camp area. And that was pretty cool, because I had a slow morning making my coffee. But when I got in the vehicle at about 6:30 to head up to a higher elevation spot to pick some more morels, there was a herd of not the typical deer, mule deer maybe, and they were like 17 or 18 strong, and they were crossing the road in the fog, barely sunlit morning, and I just had to stop my vehicle. I turned the engine off and sat there and watched them all cross, and they walked as slowly as they possibly could, looking at me, and it was great. I was having my coffee and waking up in the woods. It was beautiful. Really falling in love with Oregon. I went up to the spot, and I hiked up the hill a little ways, and I was following these little drainages, and there were morels all in the pine duff. There were a lot of pine trees there, and there was a nice thick layer of pine duff, and the morels were all in this little drainage, and I was doing really well. The morels were a little far gone. There were a lot of larvae in them, and at some point I heard a fluttering right behind my ear, and I had this backpack on, and I was bent over with the backpack and a full-size bucket, putting my mushrooms in a bucket, and there were these little birds following me down the ravine, eating the larvae out of the bases of the cut mushrooms. Because I would cut a mushroom and it had bugs in it, and a lot of the larvae fall out of the hollow center of the mushroom into the base, and it makes a little cup full of larvae. And the birds were following me down and eating all the larvae. So that was cool. I'm having this amazing animal wildlife experience day by 10 o'clock in the morning. It was really awesome. And I went down to the car to have lunch. Oh, actually, the point of that part was that one of the birds landed on my backpack. They were flittering around me. There were 3 or 4 of them, and I don't know what they were, chickadees or something. I'm not very good with birds, but went back to the car, and as I had my lunch, there was a troop of chipmunks that seemed to be in concert in some kind of effort to get some of my food maybe or something. They were talking to me. They were on both sides of the car. They would run under it and run around it, and they were looking up at me and chattering at me, and they were loud and aggressive, and I didn't feed them anything. I just didn't feel like I should. I had my lunch, went up the hill, top of the ridge. I'm looking down over the valley where there's a lava flow that starts up Mount Jefferson, and it's called Bear Valley, and the border of the Warm Springs Indian Reservation and the Mount Jefferson Wilderness is visible basically from the top of this last ridge. And so I was out pretty far, and I was walking along the ridge, and I ducked into a small young stand of grand fir that had a troop of little beautiful morels under it. So I'm just crouched down with my backpack and my bucket and cutting mushrooms, and I've already had 5 animal experiences or something. It was pretty cool. And I heard a grunting. And at this point, I had never seen a bear except for from the car in Yellowstone, I think. Never even saw one in Louisiana. But there was a bear, and I had a camera in my backpack, and I thought I was going to slide the backpack off from my shoulder. I was in a stand of dense young trees, and it was just out at the edge. But it smelled me, and it knew I was there, and that's why it made the grunt. But I'm trying to get my camera out, and it gets startled and runs up the hill. So I walk out to the edge of the stand. I've got my camera in hand. I'm just about to turn it on and get ready to take a picture, and I look up, and there's a gigantic bear about 50 yards uphill from me. And I take it that the smaller bear I saw was a cub, and the gigantic bear was mom. And I kind of just froze, not knowing what was going to happen, trying to remember all the things that you read about what, make noise and bang pots and look big and don't run, and I'm like, holy shit, I might have to run. That's a giant bear. I didn't know what to do. It was uphill for me, and it was on its hind legs smelling the air, and so I made a plan. I'm to put my bucket down, and I put the backpack down, and if it started moving towards me, I was gonna throw my arms up and scream as loud as I could, try to be as loud as possible. And I just crouched and waited. And sure enough, she started lumbering towards me a bit, and I got really nervous. And coming downhill on a decent grade, her lumbering looked kind of like running very quickly to me, and I panicked. And I jumped up, threw my arms up in the air, and I went, like a little girl, kind of. It didn't scare the bear at all, and it made her feel overly confident that she could take care of whatever the problem was, and she ran after me. And they say they won't chase you, but I was chased, and I ran, and I lost a boot, and I ran over one logging road, and I heard her still behind me, and I ran, and after I got very near to the car on the main road, she had stopped following me, but I wasn't okay. I didn't have my backpack or my camera or my morels or one of my boots or my knife or anything, and I had to sit in the car for an hour or two and relax after being chased by a black bear. It happens. They say it doesn't, but it will.
Beautiful.